Okay, I'm going to try a little bit of a different type of video. I'm in Cherry Audio's Voltage Modular, and I'm going to try to build a cybernetic patch. A cybernetic patch is basically a random evolving patch, but without using a random source. Typically, you're using two oscillators and mixing them into a sample and hold, and then sending the sample and hold back to those oscillators for feedback modulation. So I have one oscillator here. It's the zero oscillator from MRB, which is Mark Barton. And I'm using it because it's a through zero oscillator, which means that you can FM it without it changing pitch. So if we add a second oscillator, we'll just use the stock one from Cherry. And let's hear the zero oscillator first. Just a sine wave. And we'll FM it through the exponential FM. And you can hear as I bring it up, it changes pitch. So if we don't want that, we can go into the modulator input and turn it up, and then turn up the FM index. And then we can affect the timbre of the sound without affecting its pitch. So because this is a virtual modular, we can just keep taking copies of our outputs to get increased modulation. So we'll take like 4. And now you get a pretty deep FM. We can just try a couple more, see if it's too much. So we'll send a couple of these to the exponential FM as well. That's pretty good. Now we can add a sample and hold and take the sine waves, or triangle works too, and run them to the sample and hold, and then run the sample and hold to the pitch input of each oscillator. And let's hear it. Turn down the FM a little bit. So adding another oscillator to clock the sample and hold, and we're gonna affect its rate by the sample and hold as well. So now we have a random clock. Turn it up a bit. So this is nice. We can make it a little more interesting by adding a wave folder. This is Destructor by Haslow. I'm gonna take the output of the zero oscillator into it and just run right to the output. Turn up the drive and fold. Switch it to sine. Turn on the extreme. And now it's nice and noisy. So we'll add a output mixer. We'll use the 6 input stereo mixer from Cherry and run this to the first one. This mixer has no pan control. Like, it has pan control, but there's no CV over it. So we're gonna add CV of pan with control by our control. Learn it to the pan, and we'll just use an LFO and get some slow panning happening. So we'll slow down this clock a little bit. So with the cybernetic patch, little changes to the pitch of the oscillators make big changes to the patch. Typically, you're changing other modules to affect your oscillators, but here you're changing the oscillators to affect everything. So raise the main one. So we can add another wave folder, and we'll take the sine output of the mod oscillator into that one and run that to the second input of the mixer. And add another control, learn that pan as well, and add another LFO. And we'll have these LFOs affect each other's rate. So now we have two sounds panning around. Looks like you couldn't see my LFOs. We'll just move them down here, along with the second control. So it might be nice to add a ring mod. We'll take the square out from each oscillator into the ring mod and run the ring mod into the third input of the mixer. And adjust these pitches. So it might be nice to add some filtering to these sounds. So we'll add the quad low pass gate from DMT audio based on the Buchla quad low pass gate. So we'll take each of these outputs into a channel and set them to both mode, which means they're a VCA and a low pass filter. And then we'll take a quad envelope, quad function generator also from DMT, and we'll cycle the first one, trigger the second one with it. So now we have a clock and an envelope, and we'll use that to open this first channel. And we'll take these to the output, or back to the mixer, and turn it up. So we'll take the sample and hold to this new clock. For the second one, we'll trigger it from the sample and hold output, or rather the third envelope will trigger from the sample and hold output and send that to the second channel of the low pass gate. This will be a pretty sparse trigger. And for the ring mod, we'll cycle it, and we'll just have it as a self-cycling envelope for the third one. And run the sample and hold to its decay as well. Turn it down in the mixer, because ring mod, it's going to be a little... we might want to add some pan to it as well. So we'll add a third control and learn its pan. And add another separate LFO. This is the nice thing about virtual modulars. You can just keep adding exactly what you need, providing you have it in your library. Did this never learn? Okay. So this is pretty nice. We can still vary this envelope. And try lowering the oscillator's pitch, see what's happening down in low territory. Send the sample and hold to the fold amount of each oscillator, or of each wave folder. And this might be too crazy, but we'll send the wavefold output to the ring mod mixed with the direct oscillator outs. Turn up the ring mod a bit. Speed these up. Can mod the second oscillator with the first one. Turn up these low pass gates. This also might be too crazy, but we can try taking the mix output of the low pass gates back to the wave folder. And also taking the mix to the fourth input. This should give us some feedback. Run the fourth input to itself. And just tweak some of these settings. Lower some of these wavefold settings. It's maybe a little too noisy. We never varied the rate of the pan for the ring mod. So the nice thing about these virtual modulars, if we wanted to duplicate this patch and have two of them, it's easy to do. You just duplicate the rows and send it to these other outputs. Or we can just save it here and come back to it later, start something fresh. So it's also easier to show these kind of patches on virtual modulars than on hardware because, plugging the cables and stuff is a little difficult. Especially if you're holding the camera, then you only have one hand, etc. I don't know, I'm rambling. All right, well, thanks for watching.